In this video we're having a look at the installation process for a double swivel in a VW Transporter T4. So we borrowed this van from a friend. There are quite a few variations in this van, so I'll talk through what they are, but essentially it's a case of unbolting the original seat. There are 4, 5 or 6 bolts, depending on your model, of nuts and bolts that hold the seat down. We're simply undoing those, taking the seat off. We're then going to lift the seat up by a little bit by very simply adding one nut and a washer onto each of those original floor studs, tightening them up, then putting our seat swivel plate on top, putting the seat back in place and bolting it back down again using the original nuts. It's a very, very, very simple installation. There are variations between vans, but it's simply in the number of nuts and bolts that hold the seat in place. So let's have a look at the installation process in this T4. So what we've done is we've undone the various M8 and M10 bolts that are underneath the seat by reaching in from the front. We're then moving into the back of the van and lifting the seat straight off. Seat belt's a handy way of doing that, and walking it into the back of the van. So once you've lifted the swivel off the floor, we then need to basically put some padding in underneath. So what we're doing is on top of each of these floor bolts, we're putting a washer and we're putting a nut on top of it and tightening those down, and that essentially lifts everything up by a centimetre or so. In this particular van, you can see that the nuts have been cut off, the bolts have been cut off because a previous swivel was fitted on here, different type. But that's what we're going to do, putting a washer and a nut on each of these. Then the swivel goes back on top of that. This is a photo of what they look like with the original floor studs, with a washer and with a nut on top of it. And that allows us to lift the swivel up a little bit, which will then allow it to rotate. We're then going to drop this on top, and it will simply drop on top of the nuts like that. Next thing we're doing is adding another nut and washer. So having put in 2 nuts, we can then spin the seat around, align the hole that we've put into the top plate with the lower fixing point, and we can then put our washer and nut in place. And then we can do the same thing with the other one. We've put another hole in the top plate, and again we can put a nut and a washer through there. You then need to replace the original seat onto the existing seat bolts, replace the nuts in underneath and tighten them up with a spanner. Once secured into place, you can then just release the locking bolts and spin your seat round, leaving you to sit back and enjoy the new view.